Hello there, thank you for taking the time to be here today. I'd like to speak with you about something that isn't easy to talk about but is deeply important. What to be mindful of if your spouse passes away before you. Losing a life partner is one of the hardest experiences a person can face. It's not just the emotional pain, it's the many decisions that suddenly fall into your hands at a time when your heart is still heavy. In those moments, it's easy to act out of sorrow, confusion, or pressure from others. But some choices, if made too quickly, can bring regret later, whether financially, emotionally, or even physically. That's why I want to gently walk you through a few practical truths, 5 common mistakes that many people unintentionally make during this difficult time. My purpose here isn't to add to your burden, but to help you navigate this chapter with steadiness, care, and clarity. We'll take it step by step so you can reflect on each point in your own time and apply what feels right for your life and circumstances. So let's continue together. One of the first challenges many people face after losing a spouse is dealing with financial matters. It's common to feel a strong urge to act quickly, perhaps to sell the house, make large investments, or begin dividing assets among family. These decisions can feel urgent, especially when everything around you seems uncertain. Taking action may seem like a way to regain control or create a sense of stability. But the truth is, grief clouds judgment. When your heart is heavy, it's difficult to see clearly. What may seem like a reasonable choice in the moment can later turn into something you wish you had done differently. Many people look back and realize that they made life-altering decisions not from a place of clarity, but from confusion, stress, or even subtle pressure from others. This is why many experts recommend something called the 1-year rule, giving yourself at least 1 full year before making any major financial decisions. That doesn't mean you have to freeze everything, but it does mean allowing time for the initial emotional shock to pass. When emotions settle, perspective often changes, and you may find that what you thought was urgent is not truly necessary. Some well-meaning people may suggest that you downsize your home or move to a new location. Others may offer advice about investments or how to handle your money, but no one knows your situation better than you do. And no decision, especially a financial one, should be made under pressure or in haste. It's also important to be aware that during times of grief, people can be more vulnerable to poor advice or worse, to financial predators. There are those who may try to take advantage of your situation, presenting what seem like helpful solutions that could actually cause long-term harm. That's why it's always wise to consult a trusted financial advisor who understands your long-term needs and has your best interests at heart. Even generosity, giving gifts to family, helping loved ones, donating to causes close to your heart, should be done with care. Your future needs matter, and you deserve to feel secure in the years ahead. There will be a time for giving, for sharing, and for new steps forward. But in this early stage, the kindest thing you can do for yourself is to pause, breathe, and give your heart the time it needs to settle before making choices that will shape the rest of your life. As we continue, you'll see that this same principle, taking your time, is just as important in other areas of life after loss. Whether it's relationships, health, or daily routines, patience often becomes the most valuable companion in healing. Let's keep moving forward together. Another path that grief often leads us down is one that's quieter, more hidden from others, but just as impactful. The tendency to withdraw and pull away from the people around us. After the loss of a spouse, it's natural to want space. There's a kind of silence that seems to match the emptiness we feel inside, and being alone can sometimes feel like the only place where the pain makes sense. But while moments of solitude can offer comfort, staying isolated for too long can quietly begin to weigh even heavier on your heart. You may tell yourself you just need more time, that others wouldn't understand, or that it's easier not to talk at all, and in a way, that's understandable. Grief changes how we connect, how we speak, even how we listen. But isolation, left unchecked, has a way of deepening sorrow rather than easing it. I've seen it happen more than once. A friend stops answering phone calls, a neighbor stops coming to gatherings. Days start to blend together. And before long, that loneliness becomes its own kind of burden, one that's harder to carry than many people expect. You don't need to force yourself into big social settings or pretend everything is fine. That's not the point. What matters is staying gently connected in whatever way feels manageable to you. It could be something small, replying to a message, stepping outside for a short walk with someone familiar, or simply sitting quietly while others talk. These little moments remind you that you're still part of the world around you, even while you're learning to carry this loss. Sometimes the hardest part is letting others in when you feel most vulnerable. You may find yourself growing irritable, tired, or feeling misunderstood. But those who care about you don't always need the right words. They just need the space to be near you, to support you in their own quiet ways. Letting that in little by little can help ease some of the heaviness. You may also find it helpful to connect with people who truly understand what you're going through, not just sympathize, but share the experience firsthand. A support group, a neighbor who's walked a similar road, or even a conversation with someone online who's faced the same kind of loss. These can bring comfort that feels different because it comes from a place of knowing grief isn't something you get over, it's something you learn to live with. But that journey doesn't have to be walked alone. And as we'll continue to see, caring for your heart also means caring for your body, your spirit, and your day-to-day life. So let's keep going. One step at a time. There's another part of grief that often goes unnoticed, but it affects us more than we realize, and that is how easily we begin to neglect our own health and well-being. When you've spent so many years caring for someone else, building routines together, planning meals, attending appointments side by side, it can feel strange and even meaningless to keep those habits going on your own. Some people simply lose the motivation. Meals become smaller, less frequent, or skipped altogether. Regular doctor visits are postponed. Sleep becomes irregular. The body, much like the heart, begins to carry the weight of grief, and without care, it quietly begins to show signs of wear. I've known people who said, "What's the point now? I don't have the same appetite. I don't have anyone to cook for." And that feeling is real. But here's something worth remembering. Taking care of yourself doesn't mean you've moved on. It doesn't mean you've loved less. It simply means you're honoring the life that still remains, your life. Your spouse would have wanted that for you. They would have wanted you to have strength, to feel well, to carry on. Not just for others, but for yourself. Keeping up with simple routines, eating nourishing food, staying hydrated, getting outside for fresh air, moving your body, even if it's just a gentle walk, can make a remarkable difference in how you cope day by day. I once spoke with a gentleman who, after losing his wife, stopped cooking entirely. He'd always relied on her to prepare their meals, and without her, he just didn't see the point. Over time, he grew weaker, felt more tired, and began to sink deeper into sadness. But when a neighbor began bringing over a small meal once a week and encouraged him to share just one bite together, something began to shift. He slowly started preparing simple dishes again, not because he felt joyful, but because he began to realize he still mattered. Health isn't just about food and sleep. It's also about connection, purpose, and care. When we stop tending to ourselves, we often find that our ability to manage grief becomes harder. The days feel heavier, and the healing slows down. But even the smallest acts of self-care can send a quiet message to the heart. I'm still here, and I'm still worthy of care. As we move forward, we'll continue exploring how to navigate these deeply human experiences, not with pressure or perfection, but with understanding and patience. You don't have to get everything right. You just have to keep going, one small step at a time. There's another part of this journey that deserves gentle reflection. What happens when the loneliness sets in, and the quiet becomes too much to bear? For many, the absence of a spouse doesn't just leave an empty seat at the table. It leaves an emptiness in the heart that can feel unbearable at times. It's in that space that the thought of finding companionship again often arises, and that's entirely human. Wanting connection, wanting to feel cared for, wanting to share your days with someone, these are natural longings. But the difficult truth is that grief can sometimes lead us toward decisions we're not fully ready for. In those early months, it's easy to mistake the need for comfort with readiness for something new. I've seen people step into new relationships too soon, not because they were truly prepared, but because they were trying to escape the weight of silence, the ache of solitude. It may begin with hope, even excitement, but underneath it all there can still be unhealed pain. When a new relationship is built more on relief than on readiness, it often brings confusion, guilt, or a sense of being unsettled. Not because the other person is unkind, but because the heart hasn't yet had time to breathe. You may find yourself comparing the past to the present. You may feel torn between holding on and moving forward. Some even feel as though opening their heart to someone new means letting go of the person they lost, and that can bring its own kind of sadness. These feelings are not wrong. They are a sign that healing is still in process. None of this means you shouldn't find love or companionship again. Many people do. Deep, meaningful relationships that bring joy in new and unexpected ways. But when that time comes, it should come from a place of peace, not from a need to fill the quiet too quickly. A strong relationship is not meant to replace what was lost. It's meant to stand on its own, shaped by who you are now, not who you were in the midst of pain. And it's worth saying this, too. There are those in the world who may see vulnerability as an opportunity. People who offer warmth but have other intentions, who push for quick commitments or financial involvement. It's not always easy to see these things clearly when emotions are involved, which is why taking your time is so important. The journey after loss is not about rushing to feel better. It's about learning how to live again, slowly, honestly, and with care. And just as we've spoken about patience with finances, health, and connection, we must also bring that same patience to the matters of the heart. As you reach this point in your journey, I hope you'll allow yourself a moment to pause, not to rush into the next task, not to seek all the answers at once, but simply to recognize that you've made it through some difficult thoughts today. That in itself is a step forward. Losing the person you've shared a life with is more than just a moment of grief. It's a shift in the rhythm of your days, in the shape of your home, and in the way your heart meets each morning. It's something no one can fully prepare you for, and yet in the midst of that loss, you are still faced with choices, small ones and big ones, that will slowly shape how you heal from here. Each decision you make after such a loss carries more weight than it did before, not because you must get everything right, but because the space you are now walking in is tender. And how you care for yourself in this space, how you tend to your own heart, your health, your connections, your future, will quietly influence the way your life continues to unfold. You don't need to rush. You don't need to prove anything to anyone, but you do deserve peace. You deserve clarity, and you deserve to protect the life you still have with the same care and love you once gave so freely to the one you lost. Avoiding these 5 common missteps isn't about following rules. It's about giving yourself the grace to heal without added burdens. It's about making room for strength, step by step, in a time when everything else feels uncertain. And most of all, it's about honoring your journey, not by holding on to everything or pushing it all away, but by choosing day by day what helps you move forward with gentleness, dignity, and hope. You're not alone in this. And you don't have to figure it all out today. Just keep walking in your own time. And if there's one quiet truth I've learned from listening to the stories of so many who've walked this same road, it's this: healing doesn't arrive all at once. It rarely comes in the form of a sudden realization or a grand turning point. More often it arrives in the smallest of choices, gently, quietly, and often unnoticed in the moment. It shows up in the decision to get dressed, even when you feel like staying in bed, in choosing to prepare a warm meal for yourself, even if it's just something simple, in opening the window to let a bit of light in, or in accepting an invitation to take a walk not because you feel ready, but because you know the effort matters. There will be days when the ache of absence feels sharper than usual. There will be mornings when the house feels too quiet, or evenings when memories weigh a little heavier on the heart. Some days will pass slowly, with a heaviness that's hard to describe. Others might surprise you with moments of calm, perhaps even a flicker of peace that catches you off guard. This is the rhythm of grief. Not predictable, not linear, but human. It moves in and out like the tide, sometimes still, sometimes overwhelming, and it changes from one day to the next. And in that rhythm, it's easy to wonder if you're doing it right. It's easy to question whether you're healing fast enough, strong enough, or with enough grace. But let me say this plainly, there is no right pace. There is no schedule you must follow. There is only the path that is yours, and it deserves to be walked with patience and gentleness, not comparison or pressure. What you are doing each day in your own quiet way is incredibly brave, choosing not to rush financial decisions, resisting the pull toward isolation, finding the strength to care for your health, honoring your heart before entering something new, and slowly deciding what to hold on to and what to let go. These aren't just actions. They are acts of self-preservation, of dignity, and of deep inner strength. And perhaps most importantly, they are acts of love. Love for the life you had, love for the person you lost, and love for the life that still lies ahead of you. Because carrying on doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean letting go of what mattered. It means learning how to carry that love differently, not in every item, not in every habit, but in your spirit, your values, and the way you continue to live. So when doubt visits you, as it will from time to time, remember that healing does not mean you must be unchanged. It means you are growing around your grief, not away from it. It means you are learning to live again, even when a part of you still longs for what was. The decisions you make now will shape your days to come, and while the road ahead may look different than what you once imagined, it can still be filled with meaning, with peace, with quiet moments of joy. You don't need to rush toward any of it. You only need to keep showing up, with honesty, with care, and with the quiet belief that life is still unfolding, gently, in your time. So wherever you are on this journey, may you continue forward, not with pressure, but with hope, not with urgency, but with steadiness, and always, always, with compassion, for yourself and for the life you are learning to carry forward. As we come to the end of this video, I want to thank you for spending this time here with me. I know these conversations are not always easy. They touch on tender places in the heart, places shaped by love, by loss, and by the quiet courage it takes to keep moving forward. If you've listened this far, it means you're already taking a step, however small, toward honoring your own healing, and that matters. It means you're not ignoring the pain, but choosing to walk through it with care, with thoughtfulness, and with dignity. Remember, there's no perfect way to navigate life after loss. There's no single path that fits everyone, but with time, with support, and with the choices you make each day, you can begin to shape a new chapter, one that still holds meaning, still honors the love you shared, and still allows space for peace, purpose, and even moments of joy. I hope what we've shared here has given you something to hold on to, whether it's a bit of comfort, a new perspective, or simply the reminder that you're not alone in this. If this message has spoken to you, I encourage you to share it with someone who may also need it. And if you feel ready, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. What resonated most with you, and how you're choosing to care for yourself in this season of life. Until next time, take good care of yourself. Be gentle with your heart, and know that every step you take, no matter how small, is a step toward healing.